It being 6:34 p.m., I call this meeting of the Brockton Conservation Commission to order. The meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the extension of the governor's order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20. Real-time public participation and comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. If you wish to comment during a public input portion of the hearing, please use the raise your hand function to be addressed at the appropriate time. For those of you joining by phone only, please press *9 to raise your hand. A copy of this recording will be on the city's web pages. All votes will be done via roll call vote to ensure count accuracy. Please note that discussion of agenda items should be limited to 15 minutes each to ensure timely progress through the agenda. For purposes of quorum and for purposes of roll call votes, I would like all commissioners please to state their first and last name.
Laura Beekler here.
Peggy Curtis here.
Sharifa, I believe you're going to be a voting member tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct. Sharifa Mapp here.
And Joyce Voris here. So with 4 of the 5 members present, we have quorum and the meeting can begin. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of minutes from the June 21st meeting. Does anyone have any kind of edits or questions or concerns? Did all members have a chance to read the minutes? Peggy, did you have time to read the minutes? Okay, if so, then I would entertain a motion, please, to accept the minutes as read.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from 6/21/23.
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Beekler, aye.
Curtis, I.
Mapp, aye.
And Voris, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. I do just wanted to make a quick announcement. There were 4 continuances in case anyone is here from the public. For number 12, 455 Oak Street, which is the Fuller Craft Museum. Number 19, 940 Belmont Street, the VA fueling project. Number 21, 549 Copeland Street. And number 22, 710 Oak Street. Those 4 projects will be discussed. They've been continued actually to the next meeting, which will be August 16th, I believe, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay, so those will be followed up next month and are not really on this agenda right now. Okay, thank you. We'll start first with violation discussions. We start with a 30 Oak Street extension project. So if Agent Holden could give us an update, please.
Yeah, sure. Actually, we have not really applicant, but a representative from the Hamilton company here, Olga Leroy, to give us an update. Mm-hmm. And Olga, I've promoted you, so you should be able to speak.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Olga.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
So the update is I'm still waiting for the landscaper. It should be done. She said it was going to be done by next week. She's waiting for flowers. I'm wondering, is there a certain kind of flowers that we had to get? What's taking her so long? Because she said she had to order them, and she was waiting for those, and then they should be in at least by next week. She's going to give me an update this week.
So Olga,
the only thing that we had to wait for was flowers.
Right. So you submitted a remediation plan, and this is on the drive for any of the commission members that want to check this out. So they may just be waiting for the individual, flowers that they have listed in this plan. So none of these are specifically required by us, other than just having it be a native wildflower kind of stabilization mix. So anything above and beyond that is up to you. But yeah, we're not requiring any specific flowers here.
Okay, so because I was wondering, because she said she was waiting, she ordered these flowers, she's waiting for them to come in. And she, of course, like across the board, she's been shorthanded. So she's still waiting for them, but she said she'll give me an update this week. And then by next week, I'm hoping that everything is done because we've already started the project.
Right. Olga, I think that I think as far as the commission is concerned, and correct me if I'm wrong, commission members, but the big thing that we're concerned about is just stabilizing that ground that's been
Right.
disturbed around there. So even if they don't have like the large flowers that they're going to plant into that area, if you get the wildflower or the native like Northeast native seed mix and get that down and seeded, I think that's the big thing the commission's concerned with.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
I can let them know that, because I think that's what she was waiting for. So I'll let them know. That's why I was going to ask you all, is there something else that I could, move this along? So I will let them know that.
Okay, commissioners, any questions at all? No, okay. So Ms. Leroy, what do we expect to see you next month? Or Kyle, do you want to take a visit to just take a look at the project, or how do you want to?
Yeah, I think,
handle this
Olga,
now?
if you get that seated, you can just shoot me an email and I can go out and take some photos. And then hopefully, I think as long as that area is stabilized with the
Yeah.
seed, I think that, at that point we can maybe close this out. So, let's plan on, this will be on the agenda next month and hopefully we'll have some photos and everything will be
Okay.
stabilized and we can move forward.
Yeah, it may take a few weeks, I think, but
Well, to get
for
established,
things-
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
to get
absolutely.
established.
So, yep.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Leroy. Appreciate it. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for your cooperation.
All right. Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
day, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 155 Goldfinch Drive. I believe we had talked about the possibility of some kind of a wetland delineation by this month or some type of action.
Yeah, that's correct. So at the meeting in June, we kind of talked about kind of a plan over the next couple of months. The first thing was we wanted a full wetland delineation, which the applicant basically had already. So they supplied that to me, and that is now in the Google Drive that we can check out. The next step is that they will be filing a notice of intent to remove some of that construction that crossed over into the wildlands area, and then to do any sort of remediation that's required for the encroachment on the flood zone and the wetland on the north side of the property.
So is anyone here for the applicant?
Well, I'm not, Attorney Burke is here. I'm not sure if he's wanting to speak to this or not. I don't know that it's necessary. Like, they are on target as far as, with the deadlines that we set for them. So, I just kind of wanted to give you guys that update as the commission. And then I can follow up with all of them that are involved with this project to make sure that we're on board or on pace for next month to have some sort of filing.
Okay, now will they be doing an after the fact
Yes,
NOI
I believe that's the plan here. Yep.
with remediation?
Yeah.
Okay. And then do you know what the date of was from the wetland delineation? Do you know when that was actually done?
I can look. Let's see.
I have one quick question. Is it 115 Goldfinch or is it 155?
I'm sorry, it's 155.
Okay. Because in the share drive, it says 115. So I just figured it was the same thing. Okay.
I think it is. I thought it was 115.
Yeah, so did I. Let me look at the letter. Yeah, it's 115 Goldfinch. So it's just on the agenda. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Since agendas have been posted, can they be edited like after the fact, to make sure that I wonder. Do you know, Rode?
I think we can do an amendment. I'm not sure what the legal is.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it might just be something that's captured in the meeting minutes.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that kind of suffices to clarify. A good question.
Okay, so we'll make sure that does get into the minutes. Thank you.
Yes.
Alicia.
Yep.
Okay, and then Madam Chair, the date on this wetland delineation is August 4th of 2021.
2021.
Mhm.
August 4th of 2000. Oh, I thought they were going to have a fairly new one. August 24th.
Yeah, I think they just had this. This was already previously done, and we just didn't have access to this before. So they just provided me this old delineation.
Were we going to expect a newer one, or are they
Well, I mean, I guess that's
good
up
for long?
to the commission
Go
to
ahead.
decide if you. I mean, I think these are good for 3 years, isn't that right, Elise?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep. 3 years is generally consistent. And as part of the NOI review, that can kind of include just, looking over the line.
Making sure
as
that
well.
it's correct still.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Okay. Good. So then we would expect to just expect some forward movement on and after the fact NOI by next month, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Okay. And if that is not available, I think we were going to go forward with an enforcement order at that time. If
Yes, that's
It was
kind
not.
of the language that was used last month. Yep.
Okay, good. Just for clarification, to make sure we're all understanding. Thank you. Okay, the next violation discussion was 155 Winthrop Drive.
Yeah, so and I kind of have an update here, just as a quick recap for the commission members. This is the property that they basically extended the pavement from their drive all the way back to the fence at the end of the property that abuts an intermittent stream. The way that we left this last month was that I was going to reach out to the zoning board and the city engineer to check with stormwater ordinance. And then there's also a language barrier with the owners of this property. So the best way for us to communicate with them is via letter. So we're going to have a discussion tonight about what I've learned, and then we're going to maybe come up to some decisions, and then I will relay that information to the homeowners via mail, and then we'll kind of go from there. So as we've kind of mentioned before, our issue is that they've kind of paved up within the 25-foot no touch buffer zone of the intermittent stream. But again, so I checked with I talked to Ken Galligan. He's a longstanding member of the zoning board, and he pointed me towards the ordinance that's appropriate in this case. And basically, there's Rob May was concerned that there's a certain threshold of open space that's required to be maintained in a residential lot. And I think that this lot, even as it stands currently, meets that minimum threshold. So if we require them to do any sort of removal of any of this asphalt that's been there, it's definitely going to be within the minimum standards of the zoning ordinance. So I don't think that's something that we need to concern ourselves with. However, I did speak with the city engineer today about the stormwater ordinance, and he said that any new construction under the new city ordinance, there's a stricter standard here than versus the state stormwater standards. So the city standards basically say that you not only have to not make the problem any worse as far as runoff goes, but you actually have to improve infiltration when you do one of these projects. And I think the threshold for the city is there's a 40% runoff reduction that's required by the city. So according to to be in compliance with the city stormwater ordinance, the applicant would have to, or the homeowner would have to do quite a bit of work to as far as doing infiltration systems to make this pavement in compliance with the stormwater ordinance. So that's kind of where we are. We kind of have two competing conflicts here. There's the Conservation Commission, or becoming in compliance with our regulations, and then there's also the stormwater thing. So I guess at this point, it's kind of up to the commission how we want to move forward with this. I can communicate both of those standards, and then I think the easiest thing for them to do is, it's going to be expensive to get this in compliance with the city's stormwater ordinance. But again, that's up to them, how they want to proceed with this. I guess one final comment is that the city stormwater ordinance is kind of in flux right now. There's talk of either repealing it entirely or developing a new stormwater ordinance for the city. So that would, I think as it stands now, city council will be making a vote on this at some point in the future. There's definitely talk of repealing this ordinance. The city of Brockton is required to have some sort of stormwater ordinance on the books, though. So whatever the city council decides to do, they will have to get like approval from Mass Environmental Protection Agency. So it's going to be a long process. I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty, I guess, is what I'm saying with the stormwater ordinance. And I can communicate that in the letter to the homeowner. But I think for us, we're concerned about that setback in terms of the Wetlands Protection Act, and then beyond that, I guess that's up to them and how the Stormwater Authority wants to handle this.
Ms. Tripp or Mr. Holden, exactly what would be required for them to remediate?
Yeah, so Elise and I have spoken about this, and I think, and Elise, please chime in if you have anything else to add. But I think the easiest thing to do here is just to rip up 25 foot back from the existing fence line, and to be in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act. Now, that would still not be in compliance with the Brockton Stormwater Ordinance. But as far as the Wetlands Protection Act goes, if they remove that asphalt back 25 feet. From the existing fence line, I think, and then obviously seed it. I think at that point, as far as we're concerned, it's in compliance with the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I do want to clarify too. So as far as the Wetlands Protection Act goes, there's no like official setback. I know historically in the Brockton Conservation Commission regulations, it's a generally try to abide by a 25-foot no touch. So the way to kind of think about how the commission wants to address it is, if they hadn't done this work, what would the commission have approved? And it could be something that the commission would find it reasonable that they could hypothetically have paved, say, up to that 25 foot and then, asked for certain restoration or something on that end. So that's kind of a good way to think about how or what you would require. So as far as the Wetlands Protection Act goes, there is no official setback. It's more of just in general work within the buffer zone as it gets more concerning as you get closer to the resource area. But going by the Brockton regulations, traditionally it's that 25-foot no touch. So that could be a way to meet the performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act, while also not imposing, as big of a cost as maybe ripping up the whole thing. That's kind of up to the commission on determining how the work has impacted the area and what could be done to help protect. And like infiltration with having vegetation would be good. That would kind of help provide treatment for stormwater and also prevent less of a sheet flow towards that area. So that would be kind of the considerations, I think, as far as what the commission wants to require.
Commissioners, any questions?
No, I don't have any. I agree with that argument that we can only look at the wetland part. I think that's reasonable. I just feel bad if they'd be told later on to go and rip up the rest too, because that costs me. But
well, so when I reach out, I'm going to communicate that the rest of that is not in compliance with the current stormwater ordinance, and then that's something that they can decide how they want to proceed with the rest of that. That's kind of how I think we should frame that.
Yeah.
But I still would expect a plan to come before us, correct? A specific plan. With,
Definitely.
some kind of remediation for that area and protection as well. If when they're going through and ripping everything up, I would expect they'd have to have some kind of protection for any runoff or anything. Yeah, erosion. Yeah. So should we proceed then requesting an NOI, or would it be better, or should we process it as an enforcement order? Or because up till now, everything has just been a violation discussion, correct?
Yeah, so I've not issued an enforcement order at all. So this is just, we issued a violation notice, and that's the extent of on the administrative side so far.
Right. Is anyone here from the party?
I didn't ask them to be because there's
that's right. You were going to write.
Issue, so I'm just going to communicate whatever we decide here, and obviously they can respond back to me and have an input here. But I'm just planning on sending them a letter in the mail.
Okay.
And I think that if that's the means of communication, I think that we can continue this as actually issuing the enforcement officially, like this is an enforcement order and this is how you're going to fix it. getting into making them submit a plan and everything, if, I feel like sometimes that might be more confusing to them. We can try to get them to submit a plan, but if the idea is just to get it rectified and moved back quickly, or, you know, for them to be very direct, whatever we're asking them to do from our end, probably.
Would they need a plan though, if, in order to remediate, if they were gonna pull everything up? You know what I mean? If you issue an enforcement order, isn't it a plan that's needed to be able to lift that enforcement order? So,
It's not necessarily a plan that's needed. Basically, an enforcement order will remain open until whatever is asked for in the enforcement order is
Okay.
addressed.
Okay.
So, you know, if the commission does ask for, say, an after the fact filing, for something like this, that would be, you would want a plan showing where things are, you know, where erosion controls are gonna go, how they're gonna be removing things, stockpiling of that material before removal, or, you know, some of those details would be important to have on a plan, I would say.
Kyle, is it normal that we could help them with that, navigating that process, like give them recommendations of who to reach out to? I mean, you gotta think how daunting that is to somebody who has no idea.
Sure. You know, the problem is, you know, you want to avoid favoritism, you know,
Right, I
and
understand,
suggesting
yes,
certain,
yes.
you know, people to do that work. So
Right.
I think the best that we could do is maybe provide like a list of people that do those services and they can choose
Yes.
from the list.
Okay.
But that's not something that I have readily available. So I'd have to put that list together.
I was just even thinking if we told them kind of what to Google. what to
Oh,
look
yeah,
for.
sure.
I
Certainly
could
we
just
could,
see them
yeah,
being
give them
like,
some guidance there.
yeah, yeah, a little guidance, of course, not suggesting anything specific, but like, hey, this is where you could go find some answers, because I can imagine that's very confusing, so.
Yeah, sure.
mm,
So is the decision basically that we want to issue an enforcement order requiring a remediation plan to have that 25-foot setback, and then we'll just kind of go from there? Is that the idea?
I think
I'm
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Okay,
So I move to make a motion to have the owner remove 25 feet from the existing fence, remove 25 feet of asphalt as per the regulations for the wetlands regulations.
but so will you move then to issue an enforcement order that would require
Yes.
that?
Yes, an enforcement order, sorry.
Okay.
To remove the 25 feet of asphalt from the fence. As
So
per the
is-
wetland regulations.
So do the enforcement orders usually say this is what we expect for you to do to fix it, or is it just this is what the problem is?
I think we
Thinking
can
about
include language in there that says to rectify the situation, these are the steps that you need to take. Submit a plan. The plan needs to have, you know, 25-foot setback from the, you know, so all that can be included in the enforcement
Okay,
order.
that would be great. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Do I need to amend that or remake the motion?
No, I don't think so. I think you've moved to issue an enforcement order that includes returning at least 25 feet setback away from the property boundary, right?
Mm-hmm,
Or from the wetland boundary. I think that's
Correct.
fine.
mm-hmm.
and I
So with your
second that.
motion,
Yeah.
okay, motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Beekler, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And for a side, motion carries. So you'll send that out, right, Kyle?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. So speaking of enforcement orders. That brings us to number 5 on the agenda. It's 19 Otis Street. I believe in the last minutes, it mentioned that we wanted to have some kind of a plan in place for a delineation or remediation of the pergola on the river. I believe.
Yes, that's correct. And I see someone has their hand raised to speak to this. I'm going to promote them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, hello.
Hi.
You're ready to speak.
Yes, this is, I'm with the landlord of 19 Otis Street, Mr. Resende.
Yeah. And
And
your name?
I know that, I think Kyle went by, but I wasn't there to assist, so I don't know what took place. So I guess he was supposed to wait for a letter.
So yeah, I can speak to this. So after, I think it may have been the May meeting was the last time that we had this discussion on this topic here at one of our meetings. And after that meeting, I met with Mr. Resende on site with a person from the building department to help translate. And we kind of went over what language was in the enforcement order that was sent. And then also we went over what the next steps are required from the enforcement order, up to and including developing a remediation plan. And so that was around 2 months ago. So the commission, then I sent out a follow-up letter on June 27th, requesting that someone representing him come to the meeting tonight to talk about what steps have been taken, just to keep the commission up to date as far as how this process is developing.
Okay, I don't believe he has started anything because he doesn't know what to do or who to contact, like a licensed engineer or wetland, he doesn't know who to contact, so he hasn't started any process.
So Kyle, when you spoke with him, did you specify what steps he had to take?
Yeah, we went over what was the language that was in the enforcement order. So yeah, we kind of went over everything at that time. Yes.
Okay, I'm probably gonna explain it to him again. So he needs to hire a licensed engineer or wetland to come over and take a look to figure out how to remove.
Yeah, basically the goal here is to return that area basically
Yes.
back to how it was before the construction happened. So a certified professional is going to need to go out there on site and see what it looks like now, and then also they will be the ones that develop the plan to restore it back to how it was originally. So yeah, he will have to hire an individual to do that work for you, and then you can submit that plan to the commission. The commission will then, ask for any modifications as necessary. They will approve the plan, and then work can commence.
Okay. Do you guys have any list of the people that does that?
And then this just came up in the last segment too, but it's not really our place to recommend individuals to do this work, because that's not like a fair thing. That could be seen as favoritism. So
So he has to go out and look on his own.
Yeah,
Okay.
My recommendation is you can just like Google like these things and just like Brockton, blah blah blah, and hopefully find something there.
Okay.
Mr. Holden, what would you put in for blah blah blah? Would you put in environmental engineer, or would you put in environmental
and this language is all in the enforcement order, so there's kind of a list.
Yeah,
of
it says a licensed environmental engineer or wetland scientist.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can just search any of those terms, put in Brockton, Massachusetts, and then hopefully you'll find people that do that kind of work that are, at least somewhat local, and then, contact them, and then they could start developing a plan, or at least, give you a quote, and then you can shop around if necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hold on one second? I think he has a question.
Yeah, sure.
Ok, me entender essas leis, ok?
Mhm.
Uma coisa que ninguém se entende, que tem sentido. Me vem de bom tom, rio, sabe? Tu quer parar de fazer? Eu tenho logo que lá um mês que tá para minha casa. Faz muito sentido para mostrar que é parede.
He said he just doesn't feel like why he has to, take everything down, because a couple of days ago when it was raining, the river gets really high. So usually it comes like in the property. And that was the reason why he did it in the first place. So he just not understanding why he has to remove it. He understands about, I think, the cement that he did, but does he have to remove the whole wall too? I don't know how it looks because I haven't been there.
Yeah, so I think that I'm not sure what it looked like before this was built.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of structure was there to kind of keep the river from overgoing bounds initially. So I can't really speak to how it was before, but there are a couple of reasons that this needs to be addressed here. So first off, it's not on property that he owns. This is on city property, so that's one complication.
Yeah.
And secondly, I understand that there has been flooding issues on the property. By building kind of basically a retention wall and confining that stream, you're kind of taking away water storage capacity of the creek, and then that can cause more flooding downstream. So while that might solve his problem, that's making people that live downstream it's making flooding on their properties worse. So that's why we can't just allow this to stay the way that it is.
Okay. All right. I'll explain it to him.
And an environmental engineer would certainly be able to help you come up with solutions, I'm sure.
Plan. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for helping.
All right. Bye.
Okay. So so we expect to have something by next month, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I can kind of follow up with this again and just kind of make sure things are
letter.
moving along, and we'll hopefully have another report next month.
Okay. Thank you. The next item under enforcement orders is 82 Ames Street. Kyle, I believe you sent a history. It was like a history of what had occurred on that site.
Yeah, that's correct. I've got a couple of people here that are here to speak to this as well.
Okay.
So basically, the way that we left this last month was Robert and Bob here both were on, and they spoke to us about kind of the enforcement history of the property. I was kind of unaware of that, being the new agent, so I went back and kind of just confirmed all of what was said there, and I kind of wrote up a report. I sent that to these two, and then also to the commission. And just kind of so we're all kind of clear as far as like the history of enforcement with this site. And then basically we also spoke about, and I've been in communication with the two of them as well about what our next steps should be. And I guess kind of what we've decided, and I'll let them speak to this in a moment if they have anything else to add, but so there are kind of two separate issues on this site. There's one, an enforcement order was issued by me about clearing around that stone line channel in the property. And then there's an older enforcement order that was issued for kind of making a paved like parking area within flood zone. So there are kind of two different resource areas that we're concerned with, and kind of two different enforcement orders. So after the initial enforcement order about the pay, or not the pay, but the
Channel.
No, not the channel, the kind of the parking area.
Yeah.
There was a notice of intent that was filed, but that didn't ever go anywhere. So we have to rectify both of these things. But I think the next step is, and they've agreed that this is probably the best way to go about this, is to first, before we move forward with an after the fact notice of intent to deal with the parking area, we need to define whether that stone line channel is jurisdictional for, with the Brockton Conservation Commission, or if it is not a jurisdictional stream. So the next step, I think, is for them to file an RDA requesting that there be a determination on whether that stone line channel is jurisdictional. So I guess, Robert, Bob, if either of you have anything to add, you're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if, can you guys see me? This is Bob Rigo from Riverhawk Environmental speaking.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting the video for some reason, but that's okay.
Now you have no audio.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that. We hired Brad Holmes from Environmental Consulting and Restoration to go out there and see what he could find in terms of wetland resource areas. So he did go out there between last meeting and this meeting. He did not find any wetland vegetation along that channel or culvert or stream, whatever it might be. It's just a rock line armored channel that extends from more culverting that occurs to the west But it does start off as a stream. There is some intermittent stream, which is upgrading to that. So it does look like it's probably going to be a jurisdictional area. We did find a plan which shows a connection of that stream to the stormwater drainage system, and then ultimately across the property. So whether or not it's riverfront or not, it does appear at this point like it is jurisdictional. So we'd like to file an RDA as Kyle said, like to file an RDA, excuse me, establish the resource areas that we're dealing with, and then file the after the fact notice of intent for the work that's been done or any future work that we'd like to do on the property. And that's
Sounds reasonable.
that's basically it.
Okay. Commissioners, questions? Now, did you say that Mr. Holmes said that it possibly was jurisdictional?
Yes, it is possibly jurisdictional. Yes. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
There's no vegetation, but there is some upgradient wetland areas which occur a half-mile away, which would then make it an intermittent stream or a riverfront or river, river. Correct.
Okay. Okay. Good. That seems reasonable to me. Would you expect the RDA request to come through yet? You haven't filed it yet, correct?
We have not filed it yet, as of yet.
And you will be shortly, I assume?
Yes, we could have it prepared and filed by the end of next week. I don't know what your schedule is for the appearance at the next meeting, but how far in advance you would need that information, but we might have to go, 2 meetings away just to give us some time to prepare that request.
So Bob, just for your information, the RDA application itself isn't like a very stringent document that you necessarily need. Well, I guess if you're trying to, you're making an argument, so I guess you want to include all documentation that's relevant. So I'll step that back. Never mind.
Yeah, it still is. You still have to notify and stuff. So I don't know. I mean, we can get it done, like I said, by the end of next week. It's just a matter of workload, really. Just fitting it in and completing it, making sure it's in. If we have a deadline to get it in, that would be the only thing. So, like I said, we can have it in by the end of next week. What meeting we get on, that will be up to you.
Sure. The filing deadline, just so you're aware, for the August 16th meeting is Wednesday, August 2nd.
Okay, so we'll be able to meet that. No problem.
Okay, good. So we will see you next month then.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is it 603 Crescent Street? Is Mr. Silva here?
Yeah, 803. Yep.
No, 803. I'm sorry. I wrote over my number here. Okay, thank you.
I've promoted Mr. Silva so he can speak.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Silva.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
How are
here. So far, so good. How are you guys?
Fine, thank you. So, Mr. Silva would.
Yes, I talked to the company that did the plan before, the JK Holmgren Engineering.
Right.
And they give me a proposal, but the only problem now is I'm on a tight budget. I would like to ask the commissioner for more time, if that's possible, because I'm not the one that violate. I don't know if there's any chance to bring the previous owner to any of these meetings to justify why he did it. But I purchased the property through the SBA because I'm just an entrepreneur. I'm not a rich guy. And I spent more than was what I was expecting. And now this comes up to almost $16,000, over $16,000 just for the plan. which right now my business been in Brockton for only 5 months and is not generating any income. On the opposite, is losing about $4,000 a month. I don't know for how long I'm going to keep the door open, so I'm just asking for more time if it's possible. For either or, I was even thinking about removing the pavement, but that's going to cost as well. So I'm not in a position of doing anything right now. So I would like to ask for an extension or something in that nature.
Okay, I've got a couple of comments, if that's okay.
Please
Yes.
do. Please do, Mr.
Okay,
Holden.
so first, Mr. Silva, appreciate your willingness to work with the commission. My first comment, I guess I would say, I wouldn't like to do nothing at this point is better than just to rip up anything that's there. So that like to rip up the new pavement, we would also want some sort of plan involved there. So like rather than just doing that, I would just not rip up anything until we kind of develop what the actual approved next steps are going to be. So that's point number one. Number two is so I know you got that kind of this quote. One option is you can potentially kind of shop around a little bit and see if any other engineering firms or wetland specialist scientists can give you kind of a better deal as far as like the cost for this remediation plan. And then thirdly, we can like help you with the filing of the notice of intent when and if we come to that. So I did see the quote that you provided us. That was a portion of that cost was filing the notice of intent. So that's something that you and I can work together to kind of do that portion. And that would be reduce the overall cost to you. So those are kind of my three comments.
Mr. Silva, do you know when the actual pavement occurred? When the actual paving occurred? That was just before you purchased, is that correct?
Yeah, it was just before. I think the license commission wanted the lot striped, and then they decided to reseal the lot and they extend a little portion that go towards the river.
So it was really the previous owner that actually did the actual paving and striping.
Yes, and he told me that the portion was paved at some point because that was where the tank was.
That's where the what was? The bank?
The gas tanks. Yeah, he said that portion was paved at one time. The whole thing was paved because the tank was located on that area.
Was it a gas station? Was it a gas station at one time?
Yeah, it was a gas station before.
Oh. I've always known it as a used car dealership and I didn't really.
Yeah, it was a gas station before and they did the cleanup. Actually, we had all the paperwork for the cleanup and everything.
As far as including the previous owner, I'm not sure. I mean, I understand that would be much more fair to you. But it might be something that you might want to, I don't know, pursue. But I think that would have to be you that would pursue that, I think.
To go talk to him and see what he can do about it, or? Yeah.
Well, I think what Chairperson Joyce here is kind of suggesting is that like we as the Conservation Commission aren't able to enforce any regulation upon the previous owner since you're the current owner of this property. And if there was injury here in this case, that maybe you could pursue like legal action to offset the cost to you personally for the work that was done before. But again, that's not something that the commission can get involved in.
Right.
Is that kind of okay?
Right.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I was asking for more time so I can figure what is the next step.
Yeah.
Because
Peggy, did you have a comment?
I was curious, aren't there markers, or was the previous owner aware of, the markers that should have been there?
he was in that property for 37 years, so he probably should know better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kyle, do you know if there were any markings there?
Yeah, I kind of came into this after the enforcement order was already issued, so I don't know what kind of information the previous owner had before they did the work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, thank you.
Do you know if historically there was anything else on this property at all at any time? Kyle, as far as any kind of anything for conservation historically?
Not that I've seen
No.
in the files that we have,
Nothing.
but
No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I
Is
was when I was working with the SBA to get a loan, they require so many paperwork that was not even funny. But
Yeah.
they submit everything. It's just this one for the conservation land that I don't know. I don't understand why he violated.
It is a
Since he was
very, it's right on the river.
Yeah.
It really is right on the river. So
Yeah.
it's not anything that we can turn away and say, well, that's okay. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
pretty delicate area.
Yeah, I captured a video during the flash flood warning.
Oh,
Yeah, showing like where the water is actually going on that property. That's a river coming from the street into the property and going to the brooker, the Beaver Brook.
I think that probably is something you would definitely want to show any environmental scientists that would come. would think.
Yeah, probably. It was like a lot of water coming down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
So what, commission, any thoughts on how to move forward with this? Commission, and also Elise, Kyle, what would you recommend?
oh, well, one moment, Joyce. We have a person that has a hand raised. Let's see. I guess I can promote them. See, is that?
Yeah, public is welcome to speak, of course.
Sure.
Could you identify yourself, please? 617-957.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna demote them again. If they have something to say, they can always raise their hand again. It could have been an accident. Who knows?
Yeah,
All right,
I don't think we have.
So I would say, I think that it's reasonable at this point to kind of give an extension here and allow Mr. Silva some time to shop around
Yes.
and try to find something that's more within his budget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And perhaps you could, yeah. Perhaps Kyle, you could also go through that the NOI process as well.
Sure. Yeah, I can stop by sometime maybe next week, Bruno, and we can kind of talk about the notice of intent portion of this.
Okay, that sounds good.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Silva, do you have any idea who did the actual paving?
No, it was done through them. I'm not sure who did it.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay, well, thank you so much for attending. And what say we maybe another 60 days? Would that be unreasonable? Or do you think that's too much time? Because it is a fairly delicate area, and it is.
Well, I would say report back at the next meeting to see what kind of progress has been made so that we know that there is progress being made, and then expect finalization or determination at the end of 60 days, I think would be reasonable.
Okay.
That sounds fair to me. Laura, Sharifa?
Yeah, no, I was going to suggest a 60-day extension. I think the 30-day check-in is how we should identify it as a check-in. It's just something to let us know that there's, for the record, that there's progress each month being made. So thanks for your honesty and where you're at, Mr. Silva. I know it's hard and I get it, but yeah, I would say that a check-in would be nice in the next meeting on the 16th. And
Also gonna-
then we
I'm
go
also
from
going to be working with Kyle back and forth and see if we can probably get a better solution for this. I'm going to start doing some more research and getting some more proposal. As soon as I get them, I'm going to submit it to him and
Good.
we can go from there.
That
Yes.
sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much for being so cooperative too. It's a difficult situation to be in.
Yeah, it is. And thank you for the extension.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. So there's
Bye-bye.
nothing that needs to be, no motions that need to be made or anything, correct? Because it's an enforcement order that we're just continuing. Okay. Everybody's comfortable with that? Okay, next on the agenda, let's see, is 0 Lawton Street. This is a new enforcement order, is that correct?
Yeah, so the next 4 are new enforcement orders. So Edson Lopez is the current owner of this property, and then I've also promoted a Christian here. So who has their hand raised? I'm not sure if they're here to speak to this or not here. So I guess we can hear from Christian. Maybe Christian is wanting to talk about 803 Crescent Street. I don't know.
803 Crescent or
Christian, I'm not sure if Christian's wanting to talk about the previous agenda item or if they're here to speak to the 0 Lawton Avenue.
Hello, can you
Hi,
hear me?
Christian.
How you doing? Madam Chair, for the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp. I had unfortunately jumped on late. I was stuck in a meeting, but I was just seeing where we are on the agenda because I'm number 13, I think, 900 West Chestnut Street.
Yeah, we haven't made it there yet.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, I guess we're on number 8, 0 Lawton Avenue. I can give a quick kind of rundown here. So Mr. Lopez purchased this property. I think it was on April 19th of 2023. He reached out to me over the phone and asked if this property was within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. I did a quick desktop review with the data layers on Mass Mapper and didn't see anything that was apparent there. So I emailed him back and said that, you know, as far as I was aware, not within jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And then the day or so before I issued the enforcement order, which I have done, the city started getting a whole bunch of complaints from residents in the area. Unbeknownst to me, there was an intermittent stream that runs behind, on part of this property through a bunch of different adjacent properties in that area. And so there was concern from the community that was going to cause flooding. So I did issue an enforcement order, and Edson is here to speak to this, I guess, as well. Do you want me to do any share screen? I mean, so basically the enforcement order was for, there was some clearing at the site, and then also there was some fill being dumped on the site. So I'm not sure what Mr. Lopez, his plan is for the site, what he's trying to accomplish there. But, I ordered, issued a cease and desist with the enforcement order.
Mr. Holden, do you have pictures present? Do you have pictures there that you could?
Yeah, I can get those going in a moment, and we can let Mr. Lopez speak if you want.
Okay, Mr. Lopez.
Yes, here. Yes, I bought the property back in April, hoping I could basically buy it as an investment property. But it seems like after receiving this notice of the violation, which I did not intend to violate any current law, especially conservation. That's why I actually reached out to Mr. Holden just to make sure I was on the right track there. But after receiving the notice, I did stop the work just to see how I could move forward. I was looking to see if I could get maybe a pipe down where the stream is, if that's approved by the board.
I'm sorry, if you could get what, please?
Like a pipe where the stream is, and see exactly where that the wetland protected area is. if there is one close by.
That would be the purview of a wetland scientist, wouldn't it?
For identification of resource areas, yes. I'm not sure if as far as the pipe, are you referring to like a culvert or something of that sort, Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, corrugated pipe,
Okay, yeah, so that would be kind of, yep.
one side to the next, just to see if it could kind of not have like a barrier if I fill it up or anything like that. Because I did all of that just because I didn't receive a notification that there was no protection for the land. So I went ahead and did the clearing and everything like that, thinking that there's no conservation.
And that's it for photos, Kyle?
I've got some more photos. So you can't quite see it from the photo. I didn't get on the property, so all these are taken from the street. But over back in this corner, there is standing water over here, and it kind of extends back over this way behind the pile of fill here. So, and that's kind of the area that the intermittent stream is in, and it goes kind of along all the properties that are kind of next to this down the road, if that makes any sense. So there's certainly concern here, and I guess there's another thing to add here. Once we got some the complaints from neighbors and things, Director May of the planning department pulled up some old development plans for some properties on nearby streets, and on those plans there are some wetlands delineated, and that's another reason that we were able to kind of confirm that there was a resource area here. But again, that didn't come up until after we got kind of complaints from around in the community.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Am I able to see the plans? I would like to know where like the resource area is. if
Yeah, so
possible.
the plans weren't specifically of this area. I think is it Burrell Street that's like just down the way. I think that's where the
Bellevue?
development was. So it's maybe a few houses down, but I can certainly forward that to you.
That would be great.
It was unfortunate that you were given misinformation, but I understand how that could happen too.
Yeah, and I think in the future, I'm just going to whenever I do something like this again, I'll just say, hey, this is not this is not a binding recommendation or whatever. Like, to get the actual delineation, you would need to file an RDA, and I didn't include that language. I will moving forward.
Is it too late to ask for an RDA now with a potential?
I think that the tough part here is that we need to determine where and what resource areas are there.
Right.
So,
Right.
and basically we're kind of dealing with two things. So we had an enforcement order that was issued. So the commission would, for that to kind of be in official fruition, the commission would have to ratify it. It could be something that the commission requests an RDA to kind of determine where the boundaries are. That can definitely be done. Traditionally, that's done through an ANRAD, an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. But you can do it through the filing of an RDA. And I think that's kind of step one to determine what was where was work done in relation to those resource areas, before we can kind of determine what action is recommended or requested by the commission.
Just for clarification purposes, at least for the commissioners as well as for Mr. Lopes, an ANRAD is a larger process. You have to let abutters know and everything.
So yes, there's a couple, you can get a resource area approved through a couple different forms, like through a couple different permits. So if you did an ANRAD, that would be something that you can use that would be your line or your delineation for 3 years. And then you can say, use that if you were to do a notice of intent and you're kind of saying, hey, we already got this resource area confirmed. So now we're just focusing on the work. It does require a butter notification and public notice. An RDA does not require a butter notification. It does still require public notice. So
An
there's a
RDA
couple
doesn't,
options.
an RDA doesn't necessarily guarantee that the delineation is,
It can be. It depends
Yeah.
on what's requested in the RDA. There's a couple different options. So it can be
Okay.
kind of confirming that the boundaries were delineated correctly. It can be confirming what resource areas are there. So there's a couple different avenues. Basically, what the commission could request is we want some form of something saying, here's where the resource areas are.
Right.
And, it would be up to Mr. Lopez or whatever representative he might employ to kind of choose what would be most appropriate. And they could certainly kind of move forward in asking further questions with Kyle. But I think at this point, it's prudent to just determine what resource areas we're working with and how they were impacted, and or if it was just the buffer zone, if it was the resource areas, and then go from there. So a couple different options, but I think step one, as far as the commission's concerned, is going to be ratification of the enforcement order, should you choose to do so. And then it would be further steps from there. And I don't know if you have anything further to add, Kyle.
Not really with that, but I wanted to make a correction. The plans that I was referring to was for development on Belgravia Avenue, which is the next kind of road over. So that's the development plan that I was referring to earlier. But beyond that, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Okay. So commissioners, we have to decide whether or not we want to ratify this enforcement order.
If the ratification helps both Mr. Lopez and us figure out where the resource area is, then of course that's what we should proceed with, because I think that's where the biggest question is for everybody. It's where exactly this is, so then he can figure out what to do with the property. So for me, it's pretty clear.
Peggy or Sharifa, any comments or questions?
No, I agree with Laura.
Insane. I agree.
Okay, so I entertain a motion then to ratify the enforcement order for, what is it, 0 Lawton Avenue?
Yes.
Make a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 0 Lawton Avenue.
I second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to ratify the enforcement order for 0 Lawton Avenue. May I suggest that maybe we could add that an environmental delineation be done as part of the enforcement order?
It could. No, Kyle, go ahead.
Well, Elise, I was going to ask you, since the enforcement order has already been issued, can we modify that now?
Yeah,
the
yeah,
commission
so-
approves it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kind of
as
like a
part of
condition?
this ratification, it can also be kind of an amendment dash ratification. So motion to ratify the enforcement order with an amendment that wetland scientists be employed to delineate the wetlands or something along those lines. Definitely, it can be amended. And Kyle would basically add that in and then kind of reissue it for, to Mr. Lopez.
Commissioners, you think that's okay?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion then in front of the commission to modify the enforcement order for 0 Lawton Avenue with a stipulation that environmental scientists should, or someone should be hired to be able to delineate the wetlands properly and then move forward. Okay? Okay. Then a vote on the motion, please.
Beekler, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay,
And then I just have
Um,
one final thing here. I'm going to share my screen again. So this is what I've pulled up. This is a kind of the Mass GIS map. So just want to kind of explain what we're looking at here. So over on the right side are all the different layers that I normally check to see if there's a resource area around. And you can see how there are no layers that are like exhibiting on the map. So that was the first thing. Secondly, when I looked at this originally, I was looking at the assessor's layer, which didn't have it's not a satellite view, but on this view, you can see the intermittent stream kind of come up right through here where my mouse is, go underneath this drive, and it kind of continues on through the woods here. But I just didn't look at the satellite imagery. I just looked at the assessor's map layer. So, you know, that's kind of what we're dealing with here. But anyway, there you go.
okay. And the red trapezoid, is that the actual
I just
piece of
drew that on
property?
there to because this isn't like an addressed lot. So I just drew that on there so we could show
Okay, I see the
where
general area.
the infractions happen.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, did we get a second on that motion? I might have missed it, but I just wanted to make sure. We did?
I believe
Okay.
so. I think it was seconded
Awesome.
by Peggy. Yep.
Thank you, Peggy.
Mr. Lopes, sorry. Any questions or anything?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd have to just continue checking with Kyle once I have a plan, or is everything on hold up until the next meeting with the scientist?
Yeah, so I guess we can be in communication going forward to the next meeting. I think that I will issue a new enforcement order with the language that the board just approved, requiring that we basically have you employ someone to go out there and delineate the resource areas. And I can work with you on that. And then once we have that person does that work, we can then present that plan to the commission for their review. And then
Okay.
we'll go forward from that point.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you very much for your cooperation, Mr. Lopes. Really appreciate it. Okay. The next item on the agenda will be 1507 Main Street. It's also a new enforcement order.
Yeah, so I'm going to promote someone here, Jay Simo, to speak to this, hopefully. Just a little background on this. I was alerted to this by the Quality of Life Task Force for Brockton, and they informed me that there had been some paving done over at to kind of extending this drive here. I can share a screen. I've got my window up over here. So
Thank you.
this is this bottom photo here is kind of showing the resource areas that are mapped on Mass Mapper. This parking lot here is the one that was extended, and it was extended into this resource area here, and you can see that circled in red on this top photo. So that area that's in the top photo is the area that the pavement was kind of extended. And I don't think it's actually pavement. I think it's like a hard packed fill or something. But in any case, the parking area has been extended here into the wetland resource area. So that's why the enforcement order was issued.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And have you promoted some? Oh, Mr. Simo.
Yep. Jay Simo has been promoted and is able to speak. Oh, and I guess we have another one called George. I think George is this may be George Brewster. I think he owns the ambulance service company, which is in the lot basically that owns this. All right, gentlemen, you're both here. You're able to speak. Thank you.
First of all, this is George Brewster, and I own the property. I'm trustee of the property. I rent the property to Brewster Ambulance, which are my sons. Our neighbor next door had asked if he could park a tow truck on our lawn or our lot. And my sons told him, yes, you could. Well, that somehow evolved into multiple tow trucks, multiple fenced in area, and it was all not with permission. Now, I'm willing to clean it up. Tell me what I need to do. And I will go after the person next door for damages.
Thank you, Mr. Brewster. That's very succinct.
We try to be a good neighbor. We try to help out our neighbor, and this is where I am tonight. We also have the Brockton police buses on that lot. They need to be told to move. So you tell me what I need to do to clean it up, and I will do that.
Okay. And Mr. Simo, or is it Mr. Simo? Jay Simo?
Simonelli.
Excuse me?
Simonelli.
Simonelli?
Yes.
Simonelli?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes. Hi.
I just was wondering if you'd like to have anything to say about the enforcement order?
I'm just looking to rectify whatever issues there are. I don't want to impede or bring any more negative. I really don't. I was not under the impression that is the terms, but I just want to rectify it and make sure that everybody is happy. I naturally don't want anything as far as our neighbors go. I don't want them being upset with us. We have a great relationship with all of the people that we encounter over there. And
Mr. Simonelli, may I
Right.
just ask how you're related to the Brewster Ambulance Service? Are you?
no,
how are
we
you
have
related?
we have a few of the friends over there, including some of the Brewster family that are
Mhm.
friends.
Excuse me, George Brewster again. He
Yes.
is our neighbor next door that we allowed to park one tow truck in our lot.
Okay, I got you. Okay, thank you. So I guess the first thing that we have to do really as a commission would have to be to ratify the enforcement order. Is Peggy still here? Did she?
George Brewster again. I know Peggy, maybe she had to excuse herself from this.
Yeah, I see that she may have dropped, Madam Chair.
Oh,
She raised her hand.
She may be I have to promote her back in. She's here. Okay, here she is.
okay. Okay.
Hi, I'm here. I'm up in the
Okay.
White Mountains. I lost my connection, so I had to reestablish, so I'm sorry.
Okay, Peggy. Were you able to hear what was going on?
Yes, I was
Okay.
able to get the audio. I heard about the Brewster issue and things, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I think the first thing that we have to do is ratify the enforcement order, correct?
That is correct,
And-
Madam Chair.
So I entertain a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 1507 Main Street.
I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 1507 Main Street.
I will second that motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, Kyle, this is kind of a little out of order again. Did you have any stipulations that went along with that enforcement order as far as what you wanted to have attached to that?
Sure, I
don't
can
have a
read you
copy of
those
it
in a
in
moment.
front of me. Thank you.
The stipulations that I put on the enforcement order were to have them remove all vehicles that were parked on that newly paved area, to refrain from further impacting the resource area. I also asked for a restoration plan to be submitted to the Conservation Commission, including the following: identification of resource areas and documentation of alterations to those resource areas to be completed by a professional wetland scientist and/or environmental scientist. And that's it. So just those two things.
Okay.
Oh,
So once
and
we
then
have-
I also asked for a sequence and schedule of restoration to return the area to its previously previous state.
So I'll just update the motion. So I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order to 1507 Main Street, including the stipulations outlined by Agent Holden.
Okay, so that, did anyone second that motion? I don't think so.
I will second that motion again.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Declare aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion carries. It's been ratified. Thank you, Mr. Brewster. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And just an FYI, I believe all the vehicles have been moved. So it's just a matter of, restoring it back to the original.
Good, thank you. And thank you for attending, Mr. Simonelli.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, have a lovely night.
You too.
Okay. Let's see. The next one was another new enforcement order. I'm sorry, order for 270 Howard Street.
Yes, I believe we have someone here to speak to this as well. And I can just give a quick update to this as well. So this is another one that I was informed about by the Quality of Life Task Force. They informed me that there was some clear cutting that had occurred on this property. So I went out and I wasn't really quite able to see anything from the road. I could just confirm that there was some clear cutting that had been done. I can share my screen here as well. Let's do
Thank you.
that. So here are a couple photos that kind of show the area that's been disturbed. So this all used to be wooded here. And then I'll show you another. I think I've got it. Yeah. So this is another mass mapper map here showing kind of the resource areas in question. So this dark solid green area is the flood zone A, and then you can't. It's hard to see, but there's kind of like some blue texture underneath the green over here. This solid kind of line going vertically through the picture is a rail line. So there are wetlands on the left side of our screen here. And the concern is that there's any work that was done over here would be within buffer zone to the wetland. And then there's a little bit of flood zone that was also impacted. So that's kind of a brief overview visually of what's happened here. All right. And I guess, do you want to hear from Mr. Burrell? Sorry, thank you.
So
Hi,
do you want
Mr.
to?
Burrell.
Yes, hi. Okay, so I met with Kyle last week just to discuss some of what has happened there. And again, this is something that, my sons were trying to solve a problem we had with our insurance company, with trees, with graffiti, and clearly they overstepped. So I'm just looking to see, what do I need to do to rectify what happened, and we'll get on it.
So once again, wetland delineation is necessary at that point as part of the enforcement order?
Yeah, and that language was included in this order as well. Basically, the language that was in the enforcement order includes the following: cease and desist all earth moving activity within and construction within the flood zone and the 100-foot buffer zone from that wetland. Establish erosion controls at the existing limit of work to protect the resources that weren't disturbed, and then to generate a restoration plan that will be submitted to the commission. That includes the following: identification of resource areas and documentation of alterations to those resource areas completed by a professional wetland scientist or environmental scientist. And then as part of that plan, to have a sequence and schedule of restoration to return the altered and impacted areas to conditions prior to the earth moving activities.
Okay, we did already hay bale the area. You know, that step we did. And again, would you, you know, I have what you send me. So, I mean, I'll just go and find an environmental science. I have a relationship with Homegrown, and I'm sure he could handle this.
Okay. So will we expect to hear back from you, Mr. Burrell, maybe next month to see what you have?
Sure.
What action you've taken?
Yeah,
Okay.
what I'll do is, I mean, I'll reach out and find out. I know a lot of these, you know, professional people are very backed up. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
of
I
course.
will look and I will give you the schedule that I am given, and
Mhm.
we'll move from there.
Okay. So the first step that we must make is to ratify the enforcement order. As it was read by Kyle. Does anyone, commissioners, do you have any questions at all?
No.
None. No. I entertain a vote, I mean, a motion, please, to ratify.
I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order to 270 Howard Street, including the stipulations outlined by the agent today, as of today.
Motion's been made.
I'll
Second that
second that
motion.
motion.
Okay, motion by two people. I mean, seconded by two people. We have a second and a third. Motion's been made and seconded. I guess Sharifa, maybe we could say that Ms. Mapp has seconded. And so we'll take a vote, please, on the motion.
Beekler, aye.
Peggy, are you there?
Peggy, you're muted.
Yes, Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Vora's aye. The motion is carried to ratify that enforcement order. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Burrell.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Another new enforcement order is at 57 River Street. Mr. Holden, if you could.
Yeah, so I can kind of give a little history to this as well. First off, the reason I was made aware of this is a neighbor that rides their bike, I guess, in this area, saw that there was some work that was being done here, notified the planning department. So I went out and confirmed that there was some sort of earth moving activity at the site. I wasn't able to make contact with anyone on location when I was there, so I did not go on to the site itself, but from the road, I was able to see that there were just mounds of dirt over there. I did send out the enforcement order on the 7th of this month through certified mail. I never received anything back, so I don't know if they received this. That said, Agent Shave issued an enforcement order for the same property for the same type of work on June 22nd of 2020. And as far as I can tell, she had a follow-up email or a follow-up letter that was sent the month after the fact, because I don't think they showed up to that first enforcement order, like in the meeting following that order. And then I didn't see anything else as far as the filing of a after the fact notice of intent or any other documentation pertaining to this property at all in my files. So that's kind of where we are with this one. I can show you some of the photos that Megan took. They're much better. She was actually on the site. And then I can kind of show you what I was able to take there too. So let me share my screen here. So this is basically what you can see from the road. And obviously, this is all this. And I guess to talk about the resource areas impacted, all of this backyard is within floodplain of Trout Brook, and that's the concern here. Any change in elevation in floodplain needs to be permitted because any change in elevation can have downstream effects, obviously with flooding. So obviously there's fill either being added here or they're doing digging or something back there. And this is, again, these are photos from 2020. So this is old photos. I've got a few more here from Megan. Let's see, maybe. Oh, try this. Okay, so she's actually farther on the site now. And you know, I think Trout Brook is kind of back in this area, but I'm not quite sure orientation wise, but there's obviously quite a bit of fill that's been dumped back here. And again, these are all old photos.
Wow.
But it's pretty significant, right? I will show you, let's see, the photos that I took when I was there last week or the week before. All right, so again, I did not go on site. I was just taking this from the road, but you can see that there's some piles of fill here between these two vehicles. I tried to zoom in with my phone camera. It's not the best, but you can see, again, you can see this is off the road here. I did drive by again this week. I got a report from the same person that reported, the neighbor that reported on this initially to the planning department, that there was an excavator out here doing additional work after I had issued the enforcement order. And so I went by again earlier this week, and this kind of mound of dirt is no longer there. So I don't know if they just spread it out, if they've removed it, unsure. But that's kind of where we are now. And again, I've not heard anything back from anyone here, and I guess I can check to see if anyone has their hand raised in the attendees that is here to speak to this, but I didn't see anyone that's here to talk about this at all.
And you're sure of the identity of the homeowner that you or the property owner?
Yeah, I'm fairly certain. So it's registered to the individual that it's registered to has their name on the mailbox outside the house. So I think it's this. I think it's the right person. But I have not. They may have just declined accepting the certified mail. And I rang the bell when I was there the first time to try to get access to the site, and no one came down.
Interesting. I wonder what you do when that happens.
So, Madam Chair, we have been in discussions about enforcement problems generally with the commission. I think this one might be a good case to refer to the law department. I can try to reach out again and basically see that in a follow-up letter. And if we don't hear back from them by next month, then maybe we refer this to law.
I think that sounds like a great idea, because that does, it does sound like if it happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's continuing to happen with no response. I've seen enforcement orders that nothing is done with, but at least they're accepted and someone has, taken onus of the.
Right. And I think that this in particular, like, especially those photos, again, I didn't have great site access, but like from the photos that Megan had, like that's some really egregious transgressions as far as, with all that fill that was added there, that's a major problem. So I think that I think it is to that level that I think action does need to take place here. Peggy Curtis has her hand raised. Peggy.
Hi. I'm wondering, I noticed the name is Cardoso. Have we issued that order or letter in another language, possibly Cape Verdean, so that it's clear? Maybe that may be an issue as to why it's been ignored. But if we don't get a response, obviously, by the next meeting in August, and we've, made every effort to issue the letter in the language of their native tongue, I think definitely refer that to the law department, because I think we've done all that we can do at this point to get them to, comply.
Yeah, that's a great point, Peggy. I can look into, like, on this follow-up letter that I'm going to send. I can look to having that translated into the 4 kind of major languages in Brockton, and I can send 4 certified mails and see if they if any of them are delivered. So I think that's a great point.
4 certified mails, I would know they're important. I'd open up at least one of them.
But so just for the commission's information, when I send out enforcement orders like this, I send out a copy in certified mail. Then I also send just a normal regular mail that's not certified. So, but anyway, still haven't heard back. But that's kind of the standard procedure when I send these out.
When you do certified, is it with signature required or no?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I guess the obvious step that we must take is to ratify the enforcement order for 57 River Street. So I entertain that motion.
I make a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 57 River Street.
And that the letter, and if the enforcement order be sent out in the 4 languages? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
and at the end for, yes, and that since we've identified through the agent that we are able to send it out in 4 major languages. So we'll do that next.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Beekler, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Now let's see. The next one, I believe, is amended order of conditions for 900 West Chestnut. It was an amended OOC. Is that correct? Is that the next one?
Yeah, that is correct.
And I think Mr. Farland was here before. Is Mr. Farland still here?
Hello, Madam Chair. For the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp. Here tonight representing Parallel Products. We are looking to amend the order of conditions for 900 West Chestnut Street, which was the Lynch Towing Project. I'm not sure how many commission members were on the board for that project. But basically, we're looking to amend the order in order to put up the solar arrays that we have here, which are canopies. We feel these canopies are negligible into any impacts to the abutting resource areas, as they're all over the existing limit of work area, and the stormwater flows through the canopies. So there's no additional impervious areas or impacts to the stormwater. It's all within the limit of work. So we're hoping we can just add on to amend the existing order, as the work's going to be happening the same time this project's currently under construction.
And you are representing Parallel Products, who are the company that installed the solar arrays. Is that correct?
Yes, they're going to be the
Solar
owner.
canopies?
Yeah, they're going to be the owners of the solar arrays. They basically lease the space from Lynch's Towing.
I just didn't know. So if this is an amended order of conditions, does the original applicant have to submit that request because of the, no?
Well, we
Because-
had the owner signed off. on
Okay,
the application. Correct.
okay. Kyle, do you have a report, or Elise, a report from an agent's report?
Well, first, Peggy's got her hand raised, so I don't know if she has anything to say here. Peggy?
Thank you. I was just curious as to, will that be constructed first before the regular building? And then what kind of impact will that have on the jurisdictional areas when it's being constructed?
So all the canopies are going to be in the parking area. So they'll get done before the parking lot's paved.
Oh, really? Before, oh yeah, I guess they would have to.
Yeah, they're all done. It's done with by a drill rig. So the drill rig drills down, removes the soil. The soil gets removed off site, and it gets filled with concrete, as the concrete are all concrete piles. And then the solar array will get built on top of that.
So would you submit plans, specific plans that demonstrate where those pilings will be and all of that kind of stuff? And then plans for using the equipment, the heavier equipment that you'd be using, that you'll be using?
Yeah, we submitted the plans. Kyle, I don't know if, can you pull them up?
It would be
Yeah,
great.
I can do that in a moment. I will pull those plans up, certainly. Just to give a little bit more context to this whole project, do you mind if I kind of give a little bit more history?
No, not at all. Please do.
Okay, so this site was there was basically a landfill that was put here by the city, I think, and it was used as a landfill from approximately 1920 to around 1970. They've already been issued an order of conditions to kind of to develop the site in for, let's see,
Lynch's Towing, I believe.
Lynch's Towing, yeah, basically to have it serve as a towing yard, right? I think. And anyway, so that's all kind of gone through the process with the commission in the past. Now, the current work that's being done is they're basically doing reclamation activities with the soil, because there's all this debris and trash that's been buried on site. So they have to go through and kind of clean out all this debris and trash, and then like make sure there's a solid foundation that you're able to actually build upon. So that's the work that's actively being done currently on the site, is they're doing the soil reclamation. So that's kind of where we are now. After that whole process is finished, I think they're constructing a new, like a building there, and then also they're going to be putting a parking lot down. So the amended order of conditions is saying, hey, we've already been approved for this parking lot. Can we add solar panels above the parking lot? And these solar panels are going to be raised so you can have parking underneath them. So it's still going to function as a parking lot, but in addition to that, they're proposing that we add solar panels that will kind of take over and kind of act as like almost like an awning above where these cars can be parked. So that's kind of a background there too. So I will pull up the plans here in a moment. So yeah, just give me a minute. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Farland, I've seen very large trucks, the very large tow trucks for Lynch's with lots of trucks and things on them. How high are these arrays?
The arrays, just so you know, we're doing this throughout the Commonwealth. Specifically with Parallel Products, we have about 30 sites or so, and we're actually focusing on a lot of junkyards. Most of the time we're cleaning them up. This happens to be one that's going to be a new junkyard. So they're designed for trucks to be able to access drive underneath them. In some instances, we have them where, fire apparatus can get underneath them as well. So the heights you'll see, there's a detail of them as well, if you keep scrolling down. But they range anywhere from 16 feet, probably at the minimum, to around 25. But
yeah, so for example, this one that we're looking at now has a minimum clearance on this left side of 12 feet, and then a maximum over on this right side looks like 14 foot and 4 inches, 4.5 inches, maybe here. But this is just one panel. So like as you look up at this plan here, you can see there are multiple different solar arrays. Each one of these arrays have different kind of specs, right? So some of them are raised higher than others, and that's all here within the plan.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they're all pretty similar. The larger ones, they tend to get a little bit higher, as they're all pitched at 5 degrees. So the longer you go, the higher they'll get. And
what is that material that you said will be impervious, that the water will be able to flow through?
Yeah, so in regard, it's a steel structure, and then the solar arrays align along it, but there's a gap. There's like a 2-inch gap in between all the solar arrays, so the water, it's not like a roof where it would all sheet flow to one end. It kind of flows through each individual panel, and acts as it typically would during any other rainstorm if the panels weren't there.
Thank you.
Are they all designed to flow towards the storm drain?
Yeah, so it's basically the grades on the site aren't changing. So the proposed grades that the I think it was Holmgren that designed this. The proposed grades aren't changing at all. So in regards to the stormwater, it's the exact same stormwater counts.
Thank you.
Elise, do you have any familiarity with this kind of a project?
I've certainly seen it done in the past. I am curious as far as the installation of the piles. Do you know how deep you have to go, or how deep you're planning on drilling to install the piles, or the columns?
Yeah, typically, so these plans are at 50% production drawings right now. The geotech report and the structural will be finalized. But from previous past projects, and we've done a lot of similar projects with sites like this, where the soils are all disturbed, urban fill. So we end up going typically down further than we would normally if it was, a clean site. But I would say on the average, we can go anywhere from 10 to 15 feet, or if we hit bedrock.
Do you anticipate any dewatering to be necessary? I'm not as familiar with this site in particular, so I'm not sure where are you anticipating intercepting water table, if at all, on this.
Yeah, if we do, we will be, dewatering in accordance with, I believe, the order of conditions already.
Okay. And then the second thing that the commission might want to consider, just as far as restoration or seeding of the buffer zone. It looks like, I know some of the canopy overhang is kind of over the existing stormwater basin, and part of it's kind of over, it looks like just somewhere, some area that might be restored, I don't know, with some sort of seed mix or something, is just as far as it would be a shaded area. Not sure if there's any certain plants or plantings proposed. Again, I'm not as familiar with this one, and if that would just impact any of that kind of proposed restoration.
I believe we're talking probably about the, see the north arrow on here.
It'd be the northernmost. There's kind of there's a really long one, and then there's a little bit of a shorter one.
Yeah, I think that's the south side, right? The bottom of the plan?
I guess it depends on which sheet we're looking at. Which plan am I looking at? I'm looking at a different one. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this project, so it's going to be the bottom of the plan. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's this area
ones.
down here is the resource area.
That is the resource area.
Yeah.
And how close will they come to that resource area? It's just hard for me to see on the
It looks like, in this corner of this one, that I think this line here is the 50-foot buffer zone. So it will cross it over the 50-foot, like, nearer than 50 feet to the wetland. And then I think this line is the 25-foot, and so this one's going to be kind of within, the overhang is going to be over part of the 25-foot.
So where would the actual pilings be? Would the pilings be within that 25 and 50 feet?
No,
zone?
the pilings are all in the proposed pavement area. So we're not going any closer than what the previous plans were. They're just basically on top.
I know. I guess my big concern, I think I remember, Peggy, I don't know if you remember going out to this site, and it was a big meadow. It was really kind of a full meadow. And then
to that site, yes.
Yeah.
And it is
And
a big meadow,
yeah. So it's one thing if it's you're going to take fill down and then pave. Another thing if you're going to drill down, 16 feet into that, if it's if it's close to that resource area. I just don't know. And seriously, I'm only asking the questions of the specialists that we have here.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that
so
should be looked at by someone or not, or I just feel like this is I feel like it's quite a change that I don't feel comfortable making that decision now. But I don't know how the rest of the commission feels.
It's just basically like doing borings where it's not an open excavation area. So the boring goes straight down, the soil gets removed. So it's not like, you have an open test pit 16 feet deep, because obviously that would be a lot of disturbance.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's more of like a boring going, vertically down. So the soil, there's not much soil spill. It comes right out of the hole and it gets removed immediately.
Joyce, I don't know if
Yes.
this would be helpful, but generally, like Mr. Farland said, generally it does go, it's straight down, comes straight up. The only times I've ever seen basically interaction with any kind of material is certain kind of rigs, and depending on how deep you have to go when it's taken out, I've seen almost like a splatter in that area. So it might be something that, it would be prudent to make sure that we have the appropriate erosion controls. We'd want to make sure that there's a dewatering plan. If that ends up coming up, or maybe even having them develop something, if that wasn't included in the prior filing to be approved by the commission. It would be things to be considered. But overall, it's not like an in-depth excavation. It is pretty much an in and out thing, kind of like coring it out, more or less.
Okay. I just remember this case being a little uncomfortable with how close everything was coming to the, to the resource area. So
yeah, and the columns are proposed kind of at the furthest edge of the lot. So I think it would be something worth making sure that as that operation is occurring, it's occurring, I guess, as clean as possible.
Right. I would like to have that
areas where it's tough because you're working so close.
Right. So I would like to see that within the amendments, or within the, what is it, addition?
There could be special conditions.
If that could be done. Peggy, your hand is up.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. So the solar panels will be installed first, and then the driveway will be poured afterwards in the parking lot area. So that long rectangle is actually the driveway where the trucks come through into the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think you're talking about the loop. Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, you will be putting up silt socks anyway, for both. Do those pilings interfere with the pouring of the driveway and the parking lot area?
Nope. So everything was designed around the parking spaces. If you take a look at the plans, you'll see there's little columns that are all centered on the parking spaces.
Okay, and then one more question.
Sure.
If there is a repair needed on the solar panel, how does that work?
I mean, typically we go out, once a year to inspect, and that's only if something's triggered. It's all monitored 24/7. So if any, repairs need to be replaced, they'll go out there and replace panels as needed.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with solar panels, so, is it possible that it would break, that glass would shatter and, go into the wetland resource area? How do panels get removed or replaced, things like that?
It's pretty standard. I don't, you see them breaking often, but typically, one of them may be offline, and it's more electrical issues than any glass being broken or anything like that. In regards to the dewatering, we can certainly submit an additional dewatering plan. Where it's geared more towards the drilling. If Madam Chair, if you would want us to do that.
I would appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. So would it be fair to say that we might get to see what all of the different amendments might be that would fulfill, our needs to make sure that that resource area is safe, and that you might present that to us at the next meeting?
Sound good.
Commission, How do you feel about that?
I think that's
That's
good.
fine.
Elise
Madam-
or Kyle?
I was gonna say, Madam Chair, I'm not sure if Mr. or Mrs. S. Daggett had anything to add. They just had their hand raised for a bit.
Okay, I will, yep, I'll acknowledge that in a minute. What do you feel about just waiting until or, you know, getting more information from Mr. Farland to kind of you know,
Whatever,
i's?
you know, where I would say, you know, if the commission would feel more comfortable having the additional information, then I think that's what the commission needs to do to feel comfortable with the project. I'm not sure if Kyle has anything else to add, but you know, it's your choice. Yep.
I
Kyle?
don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Okay. And Kyle, if you could, okay, I guess the Daggett, S. Daggett.
Yeah, no, I have nothing to add. I had raised my hand because I wasn't sure if Christian was online.
Oh.
I am a project manager with Farland Corp. And when you were asking if Christian was here and he didn't answer, I raised my hand.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Welcome.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Madam Chair, it might be worth as far as whatever additional information is being asked for, that it be clarified, I guess, for the applicants to know exactly what they should be coming with for the next meeting.
Okay.
Just as a thought.
Okay. So it would be dewatering information, correct? Information about the setting of the
Yeah,
Helping.
so Madam Chair, I kind of have a list here that I might be able
Good.
to help you out with. So if you could come back with a dewatering plan, if that were to be necessary for the project. Also potentially getting additional information on the impact of the overhang over the wetland resource area. That may or may not be something the commission is interested in, but that's something that came up today. And then finally, maybe just the inclusion of erosion controls around the pilings, at least on some of the arrays that are nearby the wetland resource area on the south part of the site.
That's reasonable. Thank you. So, okay, to continue to the next meeting?
Fine with me.
Okay, I entertain a motion then that we continue the amended order of conditions for 900 West Chestnut Street till the next meeting.
I make a motion to move forward 900 West Chestnut Street to the next meeting, which is August 16th.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to continue 900 West Chestnut Street till the next meeting. Roll call vote, please.
Speaker, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
Boris, aye. Okay. Motion
Thank you.
passes. Thank you.
Good evening.
We'll see you next month. Okay. And then we have another amended order of conditions for 0 Hammond Street. Do you know if abutters were notified or abutters? Is it necessary to notify abutters for amended orders of condition? I didn't even ask for the last one.
Yes, it is. And Isaiah confirmed that all the butters were notified. He's not here this evening, but yes.
Okay. Okay.
I've promoted attorney Burke. He spoke to me about this project last week. I'm not sure if there's anyone else here to talk about this. I see Josh White. I'm going to promote Josh as well.
And there's also Doug King. He's with Josh.
Oh, okay.
Hey guys, can you hear us?
Hi. Hi, Josh. Hi, Mr. Burke. Or Mr. Wade.
Good evening.
Hi, welcome. We'd
Thank
love
you.
to hear from you.
Thank you. Am I able to share my screen to pull up the plans?
I think
You should be able to. If you are unable to, let me know.
I don't see an option at the bottom.
Is he a participant? Should be, right?
You might have to
1 second, Josh.
upgrade him to
I might promote you
panelist.
some more. Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, I think
To
that's what I need to.
panelist to share.
All right, Josh, I promoted you to a panelist. See if you're able to share now.
All right. Gotcha now. Pull up the plans real quick. So just to introduce myself, my name is Josh White. I'm from JDE Civil, the civil engineer for this project. And I'm here with Doug King behind me, the applicant and owner of the property. So basically this project was approved back in 2015, and it's gone through a number of changes since we were last here in 2020 for an amended order and an extension permit, which is the same reason we're here again tonight. Work has started on the site. The erosion controls around the perimeter have been installed and been inspected in the past. And the applicant is looking to modify the site plan for some specific features for this proposed cemetery. I'll show one. You guys see that? This is an example of the intent for this project. This is the Sharon Memorial Park. You can see the retaining wall on the side and a large grass area up above it. And that's what the applicant is looking to kind of build here on the cemetery as just like a nice feature when you drive in. It's something everybody's going to want to see. So that's the intent behind the proposed changes for this.
And the soil, rocks.
Yeah, in addition to, so basically the change for this project is all involved in phase 1A part of this project, which is basically the entire north side of the proposed cemetery. And you can see the wetland areas up here is the only one to the north. So basically, I'll go to another sheet, but so this is the entrance off of Thatcher Street, and we're proposing adding a concrete retaining wall on this side to, like I mentioned in that picture, just to raise the grade, both to provide that feature wall that the applicant's looking for, and to raise the grade for adequate burial depths. Generally throughout the site, we're proposing to raise the grade about 4 to 6 feet. All of the walls around the perimeter are 4 feet, so they don't
4.5 feet.
require structural engineers. Basically, they don't have to be structurally designed. And they're going to utilize both concrete walls and the stone and boulders that are found throughout the site, because all of those have to be removed for the space for the burials to occur. So basically this is a path that goes to the neighbor to the north. The nuns there, and they wanted to keep this path. That's how they go to their cemetery over here now. So we're proposing the wall there so they can keep this path open.
Then down the road.
And then they'll continue down the road of the proposed gravel driveways. Like we're showing. One change that did kind of happen after we submitted these plans, basically, like I mentioned, this path, they initially, the nuns, they wanted to keep this path, this section, but we met with them after we filed, and they are okay with continuing on the gravel,
Either way.
the gravel drive either way. So this section of the wall, I believe it's like 50, maybe like 75 feet of wall on either side. So that's not going to be necessary. It's just going to be continuous along the front. And so like I mentioned, that'll raise the grade on this portion of the site. And then I'll just move to the western side of the property. This
The
is
wall will mimic the wall that's on Thatcher Street and
yes, that's right. So on the western side of Hammond Street, the formerly Hamlin Street, which has been discontinued, there's an existing stone masonry wall. It's about 4 to 4.5 feet tall, and I just got a picture of that. So it's a substantial wall, and that's the existing drive.
That's Hammond Street.
On Hammond Street. So that's the look we're looking to continue. So this is the end of the existing pavement in Hammond Street, and then the existing wall goes here, and it stops right here. So from here, we've got a proposed wall, and then the entrance to raise up, and then this continues to the other side, which I just showed you before. So like I mentioned before, basically the purpose of this is to create that eye-popping feature that you see all around in various cemeteries, and raise the grade to provide the adequate burial depth throughout the property. And that's basically the intent for this. Like I mentioned at the start, all of the perimeter erosion controls are in place and have been inspected in the past, and the limit of work that was previously approved is not going to change. All this is within the same limit of work. So that's basically it. So I'll
Madam Chairman, Jim Burke, just to add, great job, but thank you very much, Josh. But it isn't just the aesthetics that we're dealing with, Madam Chairman. Mr. King has run into refusals because of the ground condition, soil condition, rock, ledge. So the increased level is for purposes of functional operation of the cemetery. To allow him to use and utilize the facility without dealing with the impactful rock and ledge that exists at the base level. So that's another consideration. As to the sisters, I will tell you, Doug and I both met with them, and I've had the pleasure of representing the sisters over the years. The four sisters of Jesus crucified and the sorrowful mother. And they're excited about the plans. This was their cemetery for the convent, and they are pleased and supportive in terms of it going forward.
I just had a quick question. So there are sisters that are buried there now?
Yes, there are.
Okay, and can you show me on the map where that is? And because this is really an expansion into phase one of a much larger facility, correct?
You're actually correct. Yeah, it is. And part of the arrangement when Mr. King took over the project is that he will be responsible in perpetuity for the care of the sisters cemetery.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then how much fill exactly you're bringing in?
That's probably a question for Doug.
It's like I mentioned before, it's roughly 4 to 6 feet. Well, it's 4 feet on the walls because all the walls are 4 feet tall. And then towards the center of the site, it's about 6 feet of fill throughout this upper portion of the property.
It's about what, 20 acres, 10 to 15 acres.
Yeah, it's about 15 acres.
15 acres of fill. Ooh. Wow.
What do you
Be like
use
rolling
for the
hills, like
fill? Where do you
initial
get the
fix.
fill and what do you use for it?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I missed it.
Yes. What do you use for fill? Where do you get it?
You wanna
Be like a glacier till clay material.
Yeah, so Doug said it's a glacial till material. It's being trucked in, and I misspoke about the acreage. The total acres of this upper portion, it's about 6.8 acres. The entire property's the greater number we gave before, so it's about 6.8 acres.
Just for the phase 1 section.
Yeah, just to clarify that. Yep.
I was just curious as to, it seems like it's been hanging around for a while. Why?
Well, you had the
Why-
COVID that really delayed it. This
No, it just seems
site
like
is
you get up to a
3
few months
years.
before it's going to expire and then just ask for an addition. And then this does look like quite a, is this a substantial change to the original plans? This terracing?
Good near.
I mean, it is a good amount of change, but we're dealing with the same areas. We're not so as everything was designed before, we're dealing with the same amount of area. So it's not like we added a tremendous amount and there's no additional impervious area being added or anything like that. So it's all gonna be grass lawn area minus the gravel roads, which have not changed since before. So,
Madam Chairwoman, to try to address, I think, the question you asked, Doug is ready to go on the project. If he in fact gets the approval and gets the amendment to the order, it's not a question of kicking it down the road. He's ready to begin and commence construction and has made arrangements for the proper securing the materials necessary.
Kyle?
I have one more
Okay.
question. What kind of equipment will be used and how close will they be to the regulated land?
so from the previous submittal and order of conditions, like I mentioned before, the erosion controls there's all still in place. So the limit of work is not changing. And as you can, the only wetland on the upper side of the site is this A series wetland here. And we're holding at least 25 feet. I think the erosion controls I believe they're 30 feet,
yeah.
28 to 30 feet off roughly. And it doesn't show on this plan, but there's a 10-foot wide natural buffer that was required from, I believe, the original submittal. So that's 10 feet right there. That's gonna remain vegetated.
And that wall will be built first.
Yeah, the perimeter walls will be built first and then the grade will be raised up in between.
So it'd be better control to make sure nothing does go into the wetlands.
Yep.
Because you'll have the wall.
Yep. So
what are the erosion controls that you have there
I'll go to
at that site right now?
So we have silt fence and filterment on the perimeters.
The sock stuff.
Yep.
And is that from 2015 or 2020?
No, it was installed more recently than that. I want to say, I don't have the,
Because it,
Year to 2 years.
I want to say it was probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago that they installed it and we inspected it.
Mhm.
But-
Kyle, have you been out to the site?
I have not been to the site, no.
I would feel a little bit better if you had before approving anything. I don't think any of the commissioners were on the commission at the time that this was originally permitted, because it was a long time ago. And it
Yeah.
does seem like it's a pretty substantial change. So if we might be able to have the agent go out and take a look and bring back just a little more information for the next meeting, I think I would feel much more comfortable.
Madam Chair, might I ask a question? Or
Of
a
course,
clarifying
please
question?
do.
Yeah.
Please do.
So it looks like basically around where the bordering vegetated wetlands or the wetlands are delineated. So there's a retaining wall proposed, and that is part of the newer work, or was that a retaining wall proposed that's kind of around there? Was that always proposed?
So in short, the retaining wall is new.
Okay.
Oh, I thought that was original.
So I think one thing to consider is with the fill and kind of with the raising of the grade, especially kind of where we go down from 143 elevation down to 136 in a short span. It is just to see if the applicants have kind of just looked at how the stormwater is going to flow towards that area, as well as for the installation of the retaining wall, what kind of access is going to be needed, just to make sure that as the work is done, that it's done as obviously as carefully as possible. So it might be helpful for the commission to have just additional information relating to how the retaining wall will be installed as it pertains to the area kind of around the wetlands within that 25-foot, and how that might alter or change any stormwater concerns. Just something to, I think additional information might be helpful for the commission to decide on if this amendment is appropriate for per the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as how the commission feels about this alteration to the project.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Elise.
I would agree. This is all new to me. And the fact that Kyle hasn't been out, I feel uncomfortable with making any decisions this evening. As Elise said, when you raise the grade and add the wall and how the wall is going to be made, that all impacts the wetlands. And I was also concerned as how long do those erosion controls last? Are all of them new, some of them new? What's the life of an erosion control measure? And do they need to be changed periodically? And over the life of the project itself, will that more need to be added? So I would feel more comfortable if Kyle has had a chance. So my recommendation would be to continue to next month after Kyle has had a chance to take a look at it.
With his camera, please.
I'm sorry, Joyce, what was that?
I said with the camera, please.
Oh, yeah. I've got a couple comments as well. So I'm not an expert on, stormwater issues. So I think
Yeah, I
it
know.
may be
Does seem-
prudent to have Beta look at this, because that was one of my concerns as well. And then I can certainly visit the site in the meantime as well and kind of get a better feel for the shape of the erosion controls and everything else as well. But yeah, I think I would be more comfortable if Beta was able to kind of do a review for the stormwater with the addition of all this new fill and the grading of the site. I'm just not confident in being able to give a recommendation to the commission about how that's going to impact potentially the
Good.
wetland resource areas.
Good, that makes me feel much more comfortable. Good.
Yeah, and then a couple of other things. So this is a request for an amended order of conditions, but also there are the existing order of conditions is set to expire, I think, in January of 2024. So they are also asking for an extension. So those don't necessarily have to be handled tonight because we have time to grant that extension, obviously. But I just want to kind of throw that out there as well. Like, obviously we want to do these together, depending on what we decide with the amended order of conditions. We can then also do the extension at the same time. Another option that the commission could decide on is that this is such a large change from the original order of conditions that maybe this warrants filing of a new notice of intent. So again, that's something for the commission to decide on. But in the meantime, we can certainly look into this a little bit more, have Beta look at the stormwater and how that's going to impact the resource areas.
Okay, I think that would give us a lot more information as far as how to move forward.
Okay.
Okay, so we will continue then. Oh, are there any abutters? Any abutters at all present that might want to be heard? Do you see anyone?
I do not see anyone with their hand raised.
Mr. White, could you just stop sharing your screen?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. And if there are no abutters, I just have one more comment to make, but I'll take the abutters first if there are any.
I don't see anyone with their hand raised.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So just in general, when we compared the new design from the previous design as far as stormwater, we kept the overall watershed, the flow of the water generally the same. So we didn't change the flow patterns too much.
It's the same area.
So we're, like I said before, we're dealing with the same areas. So they're all going to the same design points that they were before. It's just the change in elevation would be the only change. But we did take that into consideration when we basically regraded the entire site. So we did think about that.
Okay. But I think it does take a review. Yeah. Okay, good. So I entertain a motion then to continue, what is this? 0 Hammond Street to the next meeting.
I can make a motion to continue 0 Hammond Street to the next meeting on August 16th.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Before I.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And
Yep.
Kyle, if you would like us present when you're out there, or feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to walk the site
Sure,
with you.
yeah, great. That sounds good. Thank you, Josh.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good
Thank
night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night.
And then before we move on to the next agenda item, is the commission, do they support me reaching out to Beta to have them kind of review the stormwater at the site?
Absolutely,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now where are we? RDA,
Yes.
that's where we are, right? On number 15? RDA?
Yeah, 15, yep.
Yep, at 45 Chestnut Drive.
Yeah, so this is, I guess I can start here. I've promoted Lisa. She is the property owner here. Just to give a little background here, I get building permits come before me. And so this one was flagged. Basically, the request for the building permit was to replace a damaged above ground pool. There are some things that are exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act, like within someone's backyard, you know, if it's a homeowner. And pools generally are exempt, but because of the location of this pool and the proximity to the wetland resource area, it's specifically called out in the act that this is not exempt. Any pool that's within 50 feet of the wetland resource area is not exempt. So that's why we have to go through this process. So Lisa has submitted an RDA, you know, just to kind of have me come out and look at the property and kind of give my input about if I think there's going to be any negative impacts on the resource area. So I've submitted my agent report, and I can give you kind of a more of a rundown of that in a moment. I guess Lisa is able to speak. Lisa, thank you for joining us tonight. Sorry about the wait. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope, just that we're replacing it with the same exact size that has been there in existence for 13 years. Nothing's going to change.
What happened to the old pool, Lisa?
After 13 years, the wall rusted and gave way.
Yeah, and I've got some photos if you guys are interested. You can see them on the drive. But as Lisa said, they're basically replacing the pool with the exact same model. It's going to go in the exact same footprints. There is some kind of landscaping that's already done around the perimeter of the pool, and so that's all like staying as is. That's kind of the extent of the work here. So my recommendation, as is shown in the agent report, is to issue a -3 determination, basically saying that this activity is not going to negatively impact the wetland resource area. And the -3 determination also allows us to add some stipulations to when they proceed with the construction. So the stipulations that I've suggested are construction materials and stockpiling shall be placed outside of the 50-foot buffer zone. And just we don't have the map in front of us here, but basically they've got a fence line on the eastern side of the property, and that fence line itself is about 10 feet from the wetland resource area. So I said no staging within about 40 feet of that fence line. And then any disturbed ground shall be seeded immediately following construction. And then finally, pool water shall never be or shall not be discharged into the yard or adjacent bordering vegetated wetland.
Commissioners, any questions? No. Then I entertain a motion then for that a -3 determination be issued and a +2B.
No, just the -3 on this one.
Oh, just the -3. Just the
Yep.
-3. Okay. For 45 Chestnut Drive for the pool replacement. Any questions, commissioners?
No, I'll make the motion for a -3 finding and the order of conditions to be met on.
So this is going to be
45 Chestnut.
we'll issue a determination of applicability is what we're going to be issuing here.
So a motion should be made for a determination of
Applicability.
-3 RDA.
Yeah, that's fine. That works.
a motion to for 45 Chestnut Drive for a -3 RDA.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded for a -3 determination for the RDA at 45 Chestnut Drive. Roll call vote, please.
Declare aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
Voris, aye. Motion passes. Enjoy your swim.
All right,
Thank you very much. I
Lisa.
appreciate you all. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The next RDA is at 180 Colonel Bell Drive.
Yep, and I've promoted Owen to kind of speak to this project. I'm just going to go ahead and let you take this one, Owen. It's a pretty cool project. I'll let you explain to the commission what you're planning on doing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you. I'm Owen Gray, the Stewardship Manager at Wildlands Trust.
180 Carlo Bell Drive is the George School, elementary school in Brockton, and Wildlands Trust is going to be constructing an outdoor classroom, outdoor learning space on site at the school in partnership with Manamit Inc. So I'm here because we are one of the features as part of this outdoor classroom is a sitting circle. So we have a general classroom space with picnic tables on the lawn, but then also a area, kind of tucked away off the path in the woods, under a nice Norway maple. But yes, as you see in the photo, the idea is we're going to just clean this area up a bit and put down, bring in stumps, large tree stumps from offsite for log seating for the students. But one of the large problems here is this pretty good size asphalt dump, which is within the wetland buffer. So we have communicated with DPW, who has volunteered to remove the asphalt pending approval, and after that we would install our sitting circle for the students.
Thank you, Owen.
Yeah.
How many seats in the sitting circle?
25.
Wow.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
Yep.
That'll be really neat.
Yeah, it's a very exciting project, and
Yeah.
I hope once it's completed, you all get a chance to go over and check it out.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so here's like kind of a view of the school, just kind of give a perspective of where this is. As Owen said, like this little shed here is kind of where part of the existing outdoor classroom currently exists. There's some picnic tables here. There's a path that kind of follows this way, and then kind of cuts back up this way. And so the area that's marked with the X is the approximate area of the sitting circle site that they're proposing. And you can see it is nearby.
Uh-oh.
You just wrote.
A couple mapped wetland resource areas here. So it's the area is already degraded, and in fact, by removing the asphalt, we're going to better the area around the wetland anyway. We're going to have more infiltration there, and so I think that this is kind of a net positive for the site. And this is kind of like the idea. Oh, here you go. This is a kind of the area that I was kind of referring to. It has the picnic tables, and there's just a path. It's maybe I don't know. 60 feet, down this path to where this sitting circle is going to be. So I think it's a pretty cool development. It's going to get a lot of use, hopefully, from the elementary school kids. So yeah, I can share with you my recommendations if there aren't any questions from the commission. No. Okay, so I am recommending that we issue a -3 determination for this project, subject to the following conditions. So erosion control shall be installed at the limit of work to protect the 100-foot buffer zone. The gathering circle shall be stabilized immediately following the removal of the asphalt and any earth grading that is required. And then the freestanding log bench seats shall not be treated with the water sealing stain on site, like right there. And that's kind of it. I did want to just kind of have a conversation with you, Owen, about what the stabilization actually means for this site. I know this is going to be shaded, and trying to get like any sort of seed to kind of take hold and really get established there is going to be tough. So I just wasn't sure what your thought was. Is your plan to maybe put like mulch down, or what are you kind of envisioning for the ground cover in this area underneath the sitting circle?
We were thinking possibly rough cut wood chips, just as like you said, a ground cover. We've not necessarily we're certainly not going to leave it bare, as that would not be effective long term. So I think rough cut wood chips will be the solution there.
Yeah, and I think that would be appropriate. I was just curious to what you were thinking.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And we'll
Thank
be
you.
using them in other locations on site. So.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It is.
Any questions, anyone? I would entertain a motion then for making a -3 determination for the RDA at 180 Colonel Bell Drive.
I make a motion to issue an RDA negative determination at 180 Colonial Bell Drive, which includes the conditions outlined by the agent.
Mhm.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Speaker, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion is accepted. Thank you,
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Mr. Gray. Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank you, Owen.
The next RDA is 153 Linwood Street. Is anyone here from?
David McDonald, he is here to speak to this. I can give a little bit of background here. So this is another one that came before me just as a building permit. There's an existing raised deck that is proposed to be removed, and then they're planning on building a new enclosed room that's going to be attached to the house rather than an open deck in the same spot. And this one's going to be raised as well. There's an existing concrete pad underneath the raised deck. There is no plan to remove the concrete pad. They're going to have to chisel out and replace the support beams, but that's all going to be within the context of, or within the limit of the existing concrete pad. The wetland is the wetland resource area is on the far side of the property. It's around 190, it's like 90 feet away from the proposed work area. So it's the resource area is fairly far away, but they've applied for an RDA to get approval to do this construction work. David, do you have anything else to kind of add to give context to the commission on this project?
Getting late.
I've got some photos I can share at least. Well, maybe David is figuring out his mic. So let me do that. All right. So this garage is not what they're planning on doing, but beyond this is just kind of showing you the woods in the back of the yard. So beyond this woods, a fair ways is actually where the wetland is. So there's a pretty large distance. So I'm just going to pivot around to the right. So, so this is the area that they're going to be working in. Obviously, they're going to clear out all the stuff down here underneath the deck. They're going to be tearing out this deck, and these support beams are going to be replaced with new support beams, and so they're going to have to like remove those and kind of work on the concrete around there. But there is no plan to actually remove the existing concrete pad outside of the work to put new support beams in. And then they're going to have like this will be an enclosed room addition to the home is the plan. And that's basically it. So I can read my recommendations if there aren't any questions, or if David's got his hand up
Mr.
now.
McDonald?
All right, David.
Mr. McDonald?
We can't hear you if you're speaking.
David, are you there?
Well, and David, you can always maybe try to type in the chat if your mic isn't working.
I don't see anything.
Okay. Well, I can just move forward with my recommendation then. So I don't think that there's really going to be any impact long-term to the BVW. There's just a very large distance here. So I'm recommending that we issue a -3 determination subject to the following conditions. And that is, those are the construction and stockpiling materials shall be placed outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to the wetland resource area, and erosion controls shall be installed at the limit of work prior to construction. And I think that basically covers us.
Commissioners? Oh, did I hear David? Any questions at all?
No.
No? I entertain a motion then to issue a -3 determination for the RDA at 153 Linwood.
I make a motion to issue a 3 determination at RDA at 153 Linwood Street, along with the conditions along with the conditions the agent has just spoken about.
I'll second that motion.
The motion's been made and seconded to issue the -3 determination for the RDA at 153 Linwood. A roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Curtis, I.
Zarifa?
Aye.
Versa. Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is RDA at 940 Belmont Street. I believe that's at the VA.
Yes, this is at the VA. And so this project, Scott's here to represent. Scott, thank you for your patience. It's been a long one. You're the last 2 items on the agenda, so thank you for sticking around.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Ferry.
So this is an
Good
RDA
evening.
filing. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Kyle, for your time. Madam Chair, Commission members, good evening. Scott Farrier from Holmgren Engineering. As Kyle started to say, I'm here representing the VA hospital, a project kind of right in the middle of the VA hospital. It's really a beautiful portion of the campus that they have. There's an existing pond called Spadea Pond that we're before the commission probably close to 10 years ago to get permitted. And there's a beautiful boardwalk that goes around the pond. They have a beautiful fence around it. The clients at the VA hospital actually go there at lunchtime and do fishing off of the deck. There's some observatories, there's fish, there's turtles. It's really a pretty cool place. And as part of permitting that pond, we did a bunch of work with LEC again back in the day to kind of create a meadow situation where we have a large area adjacent to the pond where there is no mowing allowed at all, just to increase the habitat value of the area. And to go along with that, there's just a few clusters of trees on the outside of the pond. There's birch trees that are there. There's about 4 clusters of trees, and then there's maybe 4 or 5 individual trees. And what the VA is hoping to do is just to do some pruning of the trees, not cutting the trees down, just your typical everyday pruning. And the reason we have to file with you folks is the Wetlands Protection Act allows us to do pruning if it's more than 50 feet from the wetland. In our case, we're within that 50-foot zone. So because of that, it does fall under your jurisdiction. So we felt like a request for determination of applicability was justified in this case, where there's really no work to the ground going on. And as I said, it's just to kind of clean things up and help with the viewing of the entire campus and specifically the pond, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Farrier.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Yeah, no, that was a great summary. Thank you, Scott. I've got some photos up here. You can kind of see the meadow. The no mowing allowed is, there are signs here that anything back there is always going to be in kind of that meadow area. So here just kind of gives you a kind of a feel for, what Scott was talking about there. So, I did a site visit, and yeah, I guess I can just move on with the recommendation. Generally speaking, I agree with Scott that, this isn't, the pruning of these trees isn't going to negatively impact the wetland resource area itself. So I can just go ahead and unless there are any questions from the commission, I will just go ahead and issue my recommendations.
What kind of equipment will they be bringing in to do the pruning, or is it hand pruning?
It'll all be hand pruning. There's nothing significant, 1 inch branches for the most part.
Okay.
Well, I believe that was in your recommendation as well, right?
Yeah, that is part of the recommendation as well. So yeah, we got that covered. All right, well, if nothing else comes up, I'm going to go ahead and just read this. So I do recommend that we issue a -3 determination, subject to the following conditions. The tree pruning shall be done by hand, and no heavy machinery shall cross the existing limit of the lawn into the delineated wetland area. And then I also recommend that we issue a positive 2B determination, stating that the boundaries of the following resource areas are not confirmed by this determination, and that's the bordering vegetated wetland.
Okay, I entertain a vote then. I'm sorry, entertain a motion, please, to issue a -3 determination and a positive 2B determination for the RDA at 940 Belmont, for the tree pruning area.
I make a motion to issue a -3 determination and positive 2B, along with the conditions outlined by the agent for 940 Belmont Street tree pruning project.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Beekler, aye.
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Now, were you going to finish up, right, Mr. Faria, with our
Yes, ma'am.
Pleasant Street notice of intent?
Yes, thank you. Again, Scott Faria, Holmgren Engineering. Here for Pleasant Street notice of intent. This is, I believe, the third meeting we've had. We had a good discussion about the project at your last meeting. We had a couple of review letters from Beta. The last one, the biggest concern was the proximity to the river and the issue of groundwater and the fact that we had not conducted any test pits. So Beta requested that we dig a test pit just to ensure not only that the basement would be out of the groundwater, but also the infiltration system we had proposed to handle the increased runoff from the roof, that would be adequately out of the groundwater. So we did go out a few weeks ago and dug a couple of holes. We encountered groundwater at elevation 126. Our basement floor is at elevation 130. So our basement is 4 feet above the groundwater. So it really takes care of all those issues Beta had. Beta also brought up, the fact that we may need a dewatering plan and excavating the foundation. And as I said, this shows that we're going to be 4 feet above the groundwater. So we really don't have any issues anticipating any dewatering issues, any wet basements, anything like that. So I think that was the biggest issue that we needed to resolve. We submitted revised plans that had that information on it, and hopefully that will take care of everything, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Was there something that was suggested by Beta about sump pumps?
I think that was, no, I think the question was whether it would be needed or not if the basement was going to be into or close to the groundwater.
Yeah. Okay. So that's because of the 4 feet. That's enough
Exactly.
separation.
Yeah,
Okay.
we feel pretty safe with that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Kyle?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions or Elise?
Sure. So I'll take point on this one, I guess. So yeah, I've reviewed the notice of intent and the most recent plans that Scott submitted in response to Beta's peer review comments. Everything looks to be in order. All the questions, all the information that the Beta requested, they were able to provide, and they were satisfactory information, and all the requests modifying the plans have been made. So I think that my recommendation would be to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with the following special conditions. So no vegetation clearing should occur prior to the general pre-construction meeting. And then, as Scott kind of talked about already, but should dewatering be required, the contractor shall submit a dewatering plan to the Conservation Commission or its agent for review and approval prior to its implementation. Excavation for the infiltration system shall be observed by an agent of the city to confirm design assumptions. Upon the completion of work, permanent Brockton Conservation Commission limit of work do not remove marker shall be installed every 25 feet along the approved limit of work. And then the applicant will need to, they'll have to run by the type of marker before they install them. And then finally, no herbicides or pesticides are to be used within the project area at the site, and that shall remain in effect in perpetuity.
My only question too was, Mr. Ferrier, the last meeting, I think I had asked if that there was like a maintenance schedule on checklist on your stormwater packet. And I saw that you, the actual stormwater maintenance proposal came through, but there wasn't a checklist about what, like how often it would be done and exactly what would be done when. It said on the packet that it was page 6 of the packet, but there was no page 6. I just didn't know if you have like an actual like schedule.
It's always good strategy to call for page 6 and not give you page 6, Madam Chair. I do have one in again, it just fell off the copy, Madam Chair. I can submit that to Kyle first thing tomorrow morning, Madam Chair. I apologize for that.
I would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Anyone else have any recommendations? No. So I would entertain a vote then to close the hearing on Pleasant Street.
I make a motion to close the vote on Pleasant Street, 2-family construction.
I second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to close the hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Before I,
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's to close. And now, now to issue the order of conditions with the conditions that were proposed by Agent Holden.
we don't have any negatives or positives I gotta do, right?
Nope.
No, this is
Just
just
special
straight up-
conditions.
Straight up
Thank
permit.
All right.
Straight up permit.
Okay. I make a motion to issue an RDA for Pleasant.
Order
this
of
is-
conditions.
Oh,
Order of
sorry,
conditions.
order of conditions, sorry, okay, let's do it again. I make a motion to issue an order of conditions for Pleasant Street and at 2-family construction.
I second the motion.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded to issue an order of conditions for the 2-family construction on Pleasant Street. Roll call vote, please.
Before I,
Curtis, I.
Map I.
And Voris, aye. Thank you very much. Mr. Ferrier, have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, can I just have 1 second just to ask a question and perhaps a request?
Of course.
And I spoke to Kyle about this and it's somewhat self-serving, but I thought I'd at least bring it to your attention. You know, your last 3 agendas have been lengthy in numbers, at least in a few hours long. And I certainly appreciate you folks volunteering your time, and this wouldn't help you guys out at all. You're still going to be till 9:30, but is there any way you could consider putting the enforcement orders last as opposed to letting, I guess to be fresh, the guys that have done something wrong go first and us guys that are doing it right go last? Just wondering if, you know, if we could turn the tables and have the new filings first and the enforcement orders last, just to help us out. Typically, our clients have, as the previous case for the cemetery had, you have an engineer and an attorney waiting, you know, for 3 hours at $400 or $500 an hour. It gets expensive for our clients trying to do the right thing. So
Yeah,
if
that's a
there's
good
any way
point.
at all, it could be juggled. I think the rest of my my colleagues would feel the same way, Madam Chair.
I think that's a very good point. I'm sure we can talk about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate all you guys do, and thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We still have 2 utility notifications.
Very quick though, more of an update for the commission.
Go.
Okay, so moving on to agenda item number 23, the Eversource row 6. So this is a utility notification that's already come before the board, but I did get a notification from them that they are like amending their plan. Basically, there is a tree that is needs to be taken down because it's in danger of falling and landing on some power lines. So the tree is just off the road. It's still exempt as far as work, utility work, it's exempt from the Wetlands Protection Act, but they're just notifying us and they're notifying you that they're going to be taking this tree down. And so that's what that agenda item is. Elise, do you have any comments?
No. From my understanding, it's just something that they won't be, removing the stump or anything. It's just kind of cutting it down so it doesn't interfere with the actual, lines, the electrical stuff. So it's something that can happen under the Wetlands Protection Act. And no concerns on my end either. So I think it's
Okay,
appropriate.
good. Thank you. National Grid?
Yeah, and then finally, last month in the June meeting, this utility notification came before the board. The board requested that Beta kind of look into this and see if an RDA was required for this. And Beta kind of they had some questions about this utility notification, so they relayed those questions to me. I relayed those questions to the public utility. They were able to provide us. Or provide Beta with all the information that Beta was requesting, and the Beta determined that everything looked good, and there was no RDA. An RDA would not need to be filed because everything looks good and it's exempt according to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yep. Yeah. They basically just provided some more specification of the exact areas, and then, provided details relating to erosion controls, just to make sure that all of those things were covered. So, yep. So that's all good.
Thank you for all your good work.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that's
All
it.
right.
I think
We have
that's it.
We hear a motion.
Motion to close the meeting at 9:25 p.m.
I second the motion.
Very good. Good. And I do think that Scott's idea of flipping the agenda is not a bad one at all, especially anything that, yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
Awesome.
See you next month.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.